Welcome everyone at our first public developer call. This is something we usually do internally with the development team for the community platform, but we figured might be good as the project grows and more people get involved to do it a bit more public. Not at all experienced doing this in Discord. No idea if even people know how to find this place. But either way, the call would be recorded, and both Frank and Luke will give a useful demo how things work. So it would also be documented for in case anyone in the future ever needs to know anything about Figma or the Storybook. The information would be there. So yeah, let's see how we're going to do this. Also in terms of moderating the space, people making sounds and all. I don't know how this works in Discord, but we'll see. Like Mattia typing, maybe mute yourself. Anyway, the plan is to do each month a little bit with a theme. So this month it's about the design. And for the other teams, for offer suggestions, it's also whatever the community wants to hear or need, or what we think is important to talk about in the upcoming month. If you have any questions or things during the demos they will give, just put them here in the chat. Somewhere there's a chat. Put it there. Oh, I see there's some people already there. So yeah, ideally you post them there and don't respond necessarily in between the conversation and the audio. And yeah, I think that's kind of it for the introduction. Maybe I'll give it to Frank, who can talk a little bit about Figma and the design system. And then you can also figure out how to share a screen on Discord and how to do that properly.
Dave. Nice to meet all of you. I'm Frank. I'm based in New York, and I have occasionally contributed to the design side of building new features for the different implementations of community platform. I work in my day job as a product manager and developer, so it's been my pleasure to get to help where I can, although I have not gotten to help as much as I would like to, and that's part of what I'd like to talk about today. So what I'm going to go through is explaining our design guides. So we have some documentation up on a website that I wrote for how people who are interested in either contributing feedback on designs or new designs can get involved. And then I'm going to talk about, actually go through our Figma file. So we use Figma for our designs for community platform. And I'm going to explain a bit of how to move around in Figma and how you, even if you're not interested in getting into the designs, how you can give feedback using the comment tool. And then we're going to have a call to action to invite everybody to hop into Discord to give feedback on work that we're doing. So let me just share my screen. Is that working? Is everybody seeing some documentation over here?
Yes.
Is everybody seeing my screen? Okay, great. Thank you. So first, let's go through this this documentation. It is located at oneart.github.io, and you can click down the left side and go to the design section of that site. And there are three sections. So first, I'd like to talk about what is the design system of community platform. It consists of 4 different pieces of technology, really. The first is Figma, which we'll get into. That's this design tool over here. And then next is UIKit, our collection of pieces of the website and functionality that all live in Storybook, which Luke will go in depth about after I'm done. That is actually a place where we can have live components that connect between our designs and the actual front end. So you can have kind of how a piece of the website works just by itself, and get to play with it and give feedback on it there too. So it's our live documentation. And then this is actually a part of the design system as well, this documentation site, because especially with, as you all know, any organization that's as distributed as one army is documentation is just as much part of the design system as like front end design stuff, design elements. And then finally, I consider Discord a part of the design system. So what we're doing right now is part of that. So there's a helpful link there, a bit of a stub. But what I'm going to talk about mostly is Figma. So this is a place where you find design system elements like UI elements, just the sketches of what will be living components in that Storybook site that we'll look at. You'll have full page mockups, so that is stuff like this edit profile page here. You'll have features under development kind of grouped together on a page in Figma, usually denoted with a number. So these are different features that I've worked on in the past. So number 4, beta UX, has the research module comments in there. And this actually has way more stuff on research. And then for the fourth part of Figma is the empty slots, which I'll talk about. So the reason we have these empty slots is because at time of recording, Figma allows for their team accounts, their like professional business accounts, to have a free tier of having one project with unlimited users, but only a certain number of pages. We were lucky enough to start this project off with more than the maximum number of pages, so we don't want to lose those, and we've kind of frozen them in place so that we can save money on that. So I'll talk more about it in a second, but all of these slots here, we get a little warning from Figma because we're saving money going over the limit of 3 pages. So there's a little system of jockeying if anybody wants to contribute to designs to keep these empty slots alive. And the 2 big things that I want to talk about in Figma are 2 ways in which you can help out our process on design. Is first, the easier lift is contributing feedback on designs. So within the design channel here on Discord, we'll announce whenever we have designs ready for feedback, and anyone is open to jump into the Figma file and use the comment tool, which I'll show you how to do, and give feedback on anything. So first I'll talk about how to move around Figma, but I also want to talk about like ways in which you can help designers with their limited perspective to see edge cases and see things that they're not considering, because Lord knows I haven't. I miss stuff whenever I'm designing. So the first step, if you want to contribute feedback, is follow a link. So those links will be posted in this Discord channel for community platform on the design channel. And then all you have to do is set up an account on Figma. So any Figma account is free, and you can then click that link and go directly in and have your profile there. So if we flip over here, I am actually signed in already. So within Figma, you can see in the top right if this is your account is signed in. If you're not a signed-in user, you'll see a little A in this picture, and it'll say you're anonymous, which means you can't do things like comment and make any edits if you want to design, contribute to the designs as well. So once you get your account set up, then you can actually move around, and if anybody joins in on this Figma file, actually while I'm in here, you can see anyone else who is in the file, and if you click their avatar, you can actually see where they're at in the file, which can be very helpful. And I want to talk about moving around in these designs. So often there's 2 kinds of links that you might see if you're contributing feedback to designs. First is a design link, which will send you to this view that you're seeing here. So let's go to the search panel, and I'm going to show you this prototype link. Apologies, just a second, bear with me. Actually, sorry. First of all, does anyone have any questions about the overall structure of the design system, Figma, Storybook, Discord, and the documentation site? Resources. Yeah, thumbs up or thumbs down. Cool. All right, I'll keep going then. You might see a link in Discord that goes to the designs themselves, or it might go to what's called the prototype view. So the prototype view is whenever someone shares a link, can share the prototype view here, a presentation basically. So at times, designers will, if they're prototyping a flow, a click-through flow of, say, a login feature or a comment feature is a really good use case for this. You can set up as a designer in Figma interaction points that move the user through a kind of fake interaction set, and this is actually what you'll see when you land on the Figma site if you've been shared a prototype link. So that's proto in the URL. You can still leave comments here as well. So I want you to be aware that this is identical to this view as far as giving feedback is concerned. You can flip through by using the arrow keys between designs within prototype view. So it's just like a slide deck. And for the record, I'm using a little extension to show the keyboard shortcuts just whenever I get to moving around in the design view, so you can watch in this lower right-hand corner and see what I'm pressing. But giving feedback in designs is really simple. There is a comment tool that should be in the top bar of either the design view or the prototype view, or you can always just tap C and open up the comment tool just like that. And it should open the comment pane in the right sidebar. So if we're looking for designs, you might see full design set if an idea isn't fully polished, or you might see a flow of designs if they want to show an actual interaction use case. And say you're reviewing this design and you're wondering, what does it look like? How do we show the user that they can click between more images? You might think that this is enough, that it suggests that there are other images available here, but why aren't there like arrows or something? So you say you want to leave that feedback. You can either click and do a single point comment here, and you can tag anyone that's on the team in here. So I could actually tag Dave just by using his name with the @ symbol. And you can leave a question for them. So you need Dave, but I want to show you a different kind of comment you can do. Click and drag, you can leave an area comment. So let's leave a comment for Dave. Do we need arrows to indicate that this is a carousel? And you can just hit Command Enter or hit this little arrow, leave a comment. This sends an email to Dave or anyone who has a Figma account that you want to leave a comment on, and they can actually run through these as feedback. So this has been really helpful working with Dave and other team members for me, because I just get a notification list if I'm good about keeping my eye on notifications. Okay, so that is as easy as it is to give feedback. Using all of that is documented in this site using the command, the tool to comment. And let me just explain. I'm sure a lot of you are all pretty digitally native and good at moving around designs at tools like this, but you can use the middle mouse button to kind of drag around, and you can scroll in either direction to move around in designs. And if you hold down the command button, so you see in the lower right, I'm holding down command, you can scroll to zoom in. So those are your key movements to check out designs and see things. The structure of Figma is going to be pages are the top level distinction in Figma, and those are on the left pane. So right now we're in the research page, and Then there are frames. If you're just giving feedback to designs, you don't really have to worry about all of these things, but this is all of the elements in the design. If you see anything that's purple, it's a component, it's a thing that is reusable. And all of the designs are frames. So that's kind of at a high level how these designs are broken down. And you'll usually get a link to a page if we're building out a feature and we want some feedback on that. Okay, and I think that's about it for moving around in Figma to give feedback. Any questions on giving feedback within Figma?
I have a question. Is it for for people kind of who just have an account but are not really on the board? I guess it's only possible to leave comments, right? Instead of actually suggesting, like designing or suggesting something in there.
Oh yeah. Well, you could. Yeah. So we would have to add you to start.
Right.
Actually adding elements.
Yeah.
If you just need suggest new features, you can do that within Discord without like being designing within Figma. But
Right.
yes, you need to be added as an editor by I believe Dave is the admin on the account. We shuffled it because I made this Figma account, but I believe Dave's the admin and would need to add you.
Yeah, makes sense.
Okay, but that's what we'll talk about next: contributing designs. Anybody else have any questions about contributing feedback?
I have a question. So, is this basically for sharing like designs for a website, or can it be like designs for like new machinery or like new tools?
This is going to be for the website. It's going to be for the community platform that is used across the projects for One Army. So right now, it's we have a community site for Precious Plastic, Project Camp, and I believe we've set up a fashion site as well. So this is a piece of software that is used to unify a bunch of different projects for One Army. Not exactly where the designs of the new machines and open hardware occur.
Okay.
Right, cool. I will move on then to contributing designs. Contributing designs, we're still working on this workflow, so I'm interested in anyone else who wants to try their hand at this, to please feel encouraged to jump in on this, because I found it hard to lay down processes around this, but I want to explain like broadly what the people who have been doing it have been doing for the last few months. So first, features come out of discussions within Discord. I've often heard about new features from Dave and other people who are working on the project more intimately, and those usually get posted as kind of tins of, hey, we want this feature coming up. So the first step is there will be posted tasks that we're wish lists of features that we'd like to see imagined. A good example of this is the research comment module, which came out of a development meeting, a monthly development meeting, and then was kind of handed off to me as a task that was up for claiming. So you first can claim that task, and we're trying to crystallize this within Discord. So you can actually claim those by commenting in and tagging the person who posted the task in Discord. Often that'll be Dave or myself, saying that you're interested in taking this on. And if possible, we'll then move into Figma and start naming things. So we'll try to be pretty thorough in how we name things with a clear title of a comment component that lives in research, or people to tag each other in, so that you can know all of the requirements. I've had to write the requirements for these things as the designs are occurring or after when we're handing them off to development. I think we'd like to flip that process a bit. So the discussion for the requirements of a feature happens in Discord, and then we feel fully ready to jump into Figma. As Kat had mentioned, you do have to be added to Figma as an editor before you can start jumping in there and laying down lines and boxes. Message Dave. You can message him in Discord to request access. And once you have access to Figma as an editor, you will start being able to. You can just try moving something, and that will show that you're full editor status. And we'll have newfound great power and great responsibility. Must have been in a corny mood when I made these. So now you can start making your updates. This is where I'd like to reintroduce those empty slots. One thing, whenever we're working in a distributed manner across several time zones, we want to make sure that we're really careful when we delete stuff and really willing when we create stuff. As much as you want, judicious in what you delete. So all of these extra slots, we're not certain, but we're pretty sure we'll lose these pages as they get deleted. So that's why we're trying to recycle these pages indefinitely. So we'll very soon clear out these features that have made it to production and make them empty slots again. Please be careful with, once you have editor access, not deleting pages. It'll yell at you, it'll warn you before you do that. So that's the one thing I'd like to say about that. And I don't think there's time in today's meeting about how to effectively design in Figma, but I would point you towards their documentation on Figma.com. They also have a great YouTube channel that explains some of their features really well. And I'll show you a bit of the design side of what I've been slowly trying to do, and I'd like to ramp up again here soon. I'm trying to create everything that's on the website as a Figma component. Figma components are named reproducible things that are elements that are linked together. So whenever you make an edit to the parent element, that flows to all the children. This will allow us to create designs that are all linked together really effectively. And that's what I'm doing here. So as I've built out new features, I've tried to categorize them into types of content. So whenever I was doing the form editing flow for the admin interface, started building out this form component with all of these different form field types. So this is an exercise that we're going through, and I'd love to reignite if anybody's really interested in that sort of work of documenting a live site and trying to document that in a design system. And at the same time, we're building out new features. So this is kind of the menagerie of all of the common global components that we're building out, but this needs a lot more work. And then within the design system page, the other thing that would be very useful for anyone interested in design is, again, because we're working in a distributed manner, labels and admin documentation is really useful. So I've been trying to be careful to add a label next to every mock-up that I make, and if possible, go through the design process that you thought through whenever you made this. So I think I do this for the admin panel. Let's see if I actually lived by my own code. I did the labels, but not the actual. Here we go. Here's a documentation page. So showing beta progress. I'm thinking about the design notes, and I'm trying to show my thought process was as I was going. So having dedicated little components for this sort of documentation will help us be, as designers who all want to contribute when we have time, to share our thought process. And I think that's all I have time for right now, but the last few steps of the design process are document your work, try to share as much of your thought process as you can, and then kick off a review by commenting on using that comment tool that we just went through in Figma and tagging either myself, Dave, or anyone else who's contributing regularly to designs. And we can trade back and forth comments in Figma and check them off. Once that's done, we'll write a GitHub issue and get that developed. Yeah. So anybody have any questions before I hand it off to Luke to share? All right, cool. Thank you so much for your time. Let me just stop sharing here. To you, Luke.
So Luke, you're muted, but I can make a little bridge for you here. So in general, the design process of the platform is still pretty new. We have developers and coding on GitHub, but in terms of design, it's not very collaborative yet. Most of it up until now is done in-house. So this is also a way to trying to open it up more for everyone to participate. That's also why we started the design channel in the Discord. So if you want to continue to talk about this, make sure to go there. We also made 3 new briefs of things to work on, different modules. We'll post them there later, but then you can have a look at them if you want to participate with a very direct need for the platform. But yeah, after designing the components in Figma, one of the main key things is also to actually code it. And recently we started working more into components and updating our library. And that's where Luke is going to talk about a little bit more the technical side of it.
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Fantastic. That's what I get for trying to use a new tool. I had one question about Figma. I'm always curious about notifications. How do you manage comments across multiple designs, and long-running comment threads, and how does that work?
Yeah. So are you asking about how to configure your notification settings as a user, or how we...
maybe how it works for you, right? You've got a few designs on the go, you've got a few people that have dropped comments on designs. How do you manage that and keep on top of the discussion and also signal that a decision has been made, right? And you as a stakeholder say, okay, I followed this thread and yes, that decision has been made. We can close that out.
Yeah. So first I want to start with the caveat that I have not perfected this workflow, and that especially with I help out on One Army kind of part-time, and one of my points has been keeping up on notifications as they come in. I think part of that's because I'm not setting up a regular time when I kind of open up all of the tools and technology that I need for working on One Army. So I think first thing I would say is opening up the tool is the first step, and doing it at a regular cadence. Where I've done that, it's been far more successful. However, once you're in Figma, and you can actually configure your settings so that it goes to whatever tool you use most to get your notifications. So I'm not good with email. I'm a Slack worker, so I need to change my notifications to be push notifications on my phone so that I actually get those. I would say that's one of the key things. If you have an active design, you should set it up so that your notifications are kind of on and bubble up to the surface better. But once you're in the file, the notification badge shows your notifications across any work that you're doing, across not even pages, but files. So across projects, if you're helping out with other things or you're working on other things outside of One Army, you can see all of your feedback live, annotated in order of how new it is. That is super helpful just to kind of go into comment mode whenever you start those days. And then as far as closing feedback and knowing when okay, we're done. I think, especially with like the long feedback loops of kind of distributed work, I would just like to do a kind of concur message at the end. And on those concur messages, with whoever I am coming to a resolution with, I will tag the people, the stakeholders that are. I do this in my day job too, because we have people all over the place. Tag everybody, say, well, repeat the things that you think you've met, the requirements you've fulfilled with this design or this bit of work, and then you can actually close a comment thread on Figma. There's a little checkbox to resolve a comment. All those comments stay there forever, but then you can consider it done, and then you're bringing your surface area of notifications down as you go. Make sense?
Yeah, sounds good. I'm just speaking as someone who uses too many tools who all have their own notification mechanism. We've just built one for a community platform, right? So part of the problem is that.
Yeah, I think getting it sent to the funnel. It's like a funnel. You have an email that you do for notifications, or a way to route your notifications somewhere that will be visible, because I'm not going to check Figma every day, so I need to get something else to funnel them where I'm going to see them.
Cool. Great idea for a startup there, if anyone has figured out how to get all notifications into one place. Okay, cool. Let me kick off. You can see yourselves or avatars of yourselves.
Yay.
Fantastic. Right, thank you for your patience. My apologies for making you wait as I figure out how to use a computer. Hopefully you can all see Firefox with a Google slide window in it.
Yes.
Yeah, sound good? Cool. So I'm going to run through components and Storybook. First of all, what does component mean to us? This is going to be the overview for today. So 3 things: what is a component, what is Storybook, and how do we combine the two? I am hoping to do some live coding, but after not being able to share my screen, that might be ambitious. Before we jump into this, let me do a little introduction. I'm Luke. I work from the Netherlands. I don't sound very Dutch. I've been here for about 4 years, still working on the accent. I have been working on the community platform project for almost a year, and I love to be interrupted. So if you have any questions or need any clarification on anything that I'm talking about, or I'm speaking too fast, please interrupt me. I've got the chat open to one side. You can also just wave at me as well. It's not a problem. I'm privileged, and I'm speaking my first and only language. So if I speak too fast, also let me know. Okay, housekeeping out the way, let's go. So, what does component mean to us? And for that, I'm talking about this conversation, right? Component is one of those helpfully meaningless terms. So let's give it some meaning for this conversation. So, it's something that's visible in the browser. It's an individual element. So an example of that might be a button. A button is a component. But it's also can be a composition of other elements and or components. So we have components in our site that consist of other components, right? So you might have a comment form, and that has an input component within it, and then it also has a button component in it, maybe to submit. And we use kind of components also as a grouping mechanism for kind of combining functionality and creating like small layouts. So yeah, that's it. Yeah, they can be big or they can be small. And the other thing that's kind of really important here is that they're stateless. When we're talking about components in this presentation, we're talking about simply the visual representation of some state that's available elsewhere. that will become important later. If you don't know what that means, now is the time to interrupt me. And then the final, most kind of key attribute of our component is that they support reuse. And the reason for that is we are a small team of passionate but also lazy people. So if we can make things quicker and faster by reusing something, then let's do that, right? Cool. Any
Got a question? One question.
Yeah.
When you're talking about stateless, you mentioned that comment component, comment section form. Guess how do you separate whenever you're commenting? Like, there's text in that form. That isn't. How do you not? How is that stateless when there's data going through there? Yes, conceptually, how do you separate the?
Yeah. That's a very useful distinction, and I guess it's worth noting that we're when we talk about state, or when I talk about state here, I am meaning from an implementation code perspective, in that the component itself is not aware that it has a loading state, it has a failed to load state, or it has a successfully loaded state. The components that we are building on the community platform are they are dumb to that, right? That there is something outside of them that orchestrates the data and pushes state into these components, and then depending on the state that has been pushed into these components, they will do the correct thing, right? They will either render an error statement or show a listing of elements, but essentially they don't understand any of that logic within themselves, which is slightly different from a design perspective when you say, oh, I'm building a component and it will have multiple states, right? It will have a loading state and this is where I should also say I'm a developer, so I'm working from a code first perspective, not really thinking about life cycle states from a visual perspective.
Makes sense.
That's very kind of you to say it makes sense. I'll have another go if someone wants to frame the question again. But if you're happy with that confused answer, we will continue. Okay, so on to the next one. So before we get down to our components, let's take a bird's eye view of the project. What have we got? So the core of the community platform project is a single page application built using React. And as you can see with this exciting diagram, we have a few dependencies on products from the Google Firebase family. So that's kind of where we are. Let's zoom in a bit further. So now we're looking within the single page application, and each within the single page application, there are multiple pages that are rendered for our customers. Let me slow down. Our viewers' browser. So we have 7 different page layouts here. I can count. Excellent. I'm definitely missing one. We're missing a settings page, but this is a bit of an overview, just to give you an idea of the structure. Yes, that's an interesting point. Just going off to the chat, searching for the contrast between presentational and container components. Very good. Yes, the components that we're talking about in our conversation today are purely presentational. Super useful. We'll definitely read that article afterwards. Okay, so if we dig in and pull up 2 particular pages here, so we have how-to article and research layout, and we can take a quick look at them. I've got a brief kind of skeleton of how they're built. You can see this is individual how-to. Header, we have these steps with some kind of media content, and right down the bottom we have comments. And very good, we can interact with this. Hello world. I won't spam this into the thing, but I could submit and add this if I wanted to. Then if we go and take a look at our other site, this is another interesting thing. We have 2 instances up and running at the moment. So the Project Camp community has research pieces, and again, similar layout, right? We have a header, there's no image. We have updates instead of steps here. Media content, slightly different layout. But what we have, also note that comments are pinned to updates for research articles, but for how-to articles, they're pinned to the entire article. Whereas in here, they're nested. But actually what we're rendering here is exactly the same presentational component, which is a listing of comments and the option to add some more, although I'm not logged in. No, I am logged in. Oh, I can't comment because I haven't written anything. Hello world. Yeah, so you see there's a small amount of state in there that this goes from disabled to enabled, but that's like internal to the component. It doesn't need to load that state from anywhere else. Okay, cool. So we've got comments. We see them on both pages. Very good. We should extract and combine and make this a single component that we can then drop in the same in multiple places. And when we add a new kind of content that requires comments, we can just drop the comment component in there and just know that it's going to work. So how do we do that? Because at the moment, it's just available on these pages, right? Any questions at this point? Silence is golden. Okay, so on to the next one. So this is where Storybook comes in. And Storybook is many things. It's an open source project. It's fairly mature, and it's now backed by a company. So it used to be one thing, and now it does many things because that's what happens to software over time. So it's the way I see it, or the biggest values that I see from it are it's a development environment. And you get hot module or hot page reloading. So as you make changes to your code, your component in Storybook will be updated. So it's very nice to have it open on one half of your screen and be typing code in the other half. The other thing it provides is documentation, which makes it easier for us to understand what's going on with the components. We're a distributed team of contributors that come and go with the ebb of the spare time that we have available. So documentation is super important. And then testing. This is something we don't do a huge amount of at the moment, but the idea with Storybooks, some of its paid features, hello VC Pressure, is that you can do like screen grabs and then do bitmap comparison of the screen grabs. So we can then say, this is what the component looked like before the PR, this is what it looks like after the PR, and then if the changes line up and we're happy with them, we can approve. And it's not something we need at the moment, but it's there in the future if we want it. Yes, and then I was going to link through to this one. So this is an example of our comment extracted out to isolation so that we can then kind of poke it about and see how it works. So we have, to expand, I mean, I can introduce you briefly. The sidebar here is all of the components we currently have, not so many. And then this is your kind of main play area here. So we can see the documentation for the comment item. We have this kind of like default one. There has to be a default, but the comment is quite a complex component in the way that it can vary as a result of the content. So you can see you can have these buttons in here if it's editable. And this is one that's been edited, so you can see the date stamp is different. This is one with really long text, so then we've got that kind of collapsible behavior built into the component. We can then show less. This one looks like it's really long, and here's one with a link as well, just to verify that the styling looks good. And doing this manually within your full platform would involve manually writing comments in every permutation and making sure you don't lose them. But here it's all kind of available for reference, and we have a collection of components used for comments. So we have this comment list, which is a list of comment items. Actually, if we go and take a look at this one, it's pretty cool. You can actually see the code that's used to generate this. So you see, you pass through a list of comments, and it will render them. I'm not sure why we're passing the article title through. Probably for analytics or something like that. And then we can go and take a look. So we have this create comment one. Oh yeah, this is another really good one, because if we look at the code, we say, okay, this is our component. They can create a comment. You pass in, is the user logged in? So this can be done at a control level component, and which would not be documented in Storybook, which is why we're not talking about it today. But then, depending on that logic, true or false will be passed in. It's either going to say, oh, you're going to need to log in before you can post a comment, or it's going to show you this form. It's a little bit unfortunate. There's a white background here, so we're not seeing the because the site, our site default is this kind of off grey or off blue, which means our inputs are white. So in Storybook, it's a little bit misleading because it's not an off blue background. I welcome pull requests to fix that. Any comments at this point? Conscious of time. Cool. We'll continue. Next up, so working with components in Storybook. This is where I was going to do a live demo, and we just add a new bit of documentation in to show you how to actually work with this. But I'm conscious we only have 4 minutes left, I think, of our allocated time, so I might need to push this off for another time. Hello. Is anyone there?
Sorry.
Was it the end? Today?
Yeah, I mean we're meant to finish in 4 minutes, right? So should I start a live demo now, a live coding exercise now, which will take probably 5 to 10 minutes, or?
Is there anything else on the? Yeah, if there's nothing else on the agenda, I think that will be fine.
Yeah, I think there was stuff on the agenda. I consumed a bunch of time being unable to use my computer.
So I can briefly mention a bit the end, so in case if people want to leave, they leave. And then if you have any questions or you want to see Luke doing a superpower, you can stay along. But yeah, so generally where the platform is currently at is that the coding is always open. You can go on GitHub. There are many issues where you contribute. The design process is now starting to open up, that more people can contribute there. So go to the channel in Discord where you can interact. It's called Design. We will post 3 briefs where you can help out with designing using the Figma file and the design guidelines Frank just shared. I also put those links there. And generally also what we're trying to do in the coming period is optimizing the platform. So Mattia has been making a lot of small little bug fixes or issues for it. And a lot of bug fixes has also been made by Ashirizi, which has been really cool, actually. And meanwhile, I think Luke is still always trying to migrate more components. So trying to get more of our components into Storybook and that they are components. So if you want to help with that, that's also very useful. And Yeah, we're now also soon releasing the Fixing Fashion instance. So we have one instance for Project Camp or for Fresh Plastic, and one would go to Fixing Fashion, which would also be in the current pipeline. It's almost done, but just so you guys know that's coming for the community platform. I think those were all my practical things I wanted to say until the end. I would say, yeah, maybe we'll go for Luke's demo. And
I have a question.
Questions in the end, if anyone has. And I hope my internet's still good. I'm skeptical. But let's see.
Can you guys hear me?
I can hear you, Mathieu.
Cool. Just a little comment. First of all, thanks Frank and Luke. Really sharp presentation, and good to actually see your faces. I think I met Luke before, and I never met Frank. Thanks for all your
you're up for
contribution.
some live coding, Luke.
Uh-oh. Think, Dave, maybe your connection is a bit slow. So my question was regarding a bit, it feels like that we're kind of working in silos.
Mute.
Wait, I've lost. Is my connection share?
I can hear you.
Luke is...
I'm here.
Okay, I think then...
It seems like
Sorry, just
Luke
kind of...
can't hear you, and Dave. Wait, maybe we should.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You guys hear Luke talking?
I don't hear Luke talking. I hear Mathieu trying to make a point.
But I'm gonna mute myself until Luke can. Also, see Luke being quite eager to code. Maybe let's just let him do this thing.
1, 2.
There you go. Yeah, Luke, you're back in.
I can hear you. Did you not hear Mathieu a second ago?
This makes me feel so old. I can't use Discord. What the hell is going on?
Okay, should I make my point, or hold it on for later?
I don't hear Mattia, no.
Okay, damn it.
Maybe if you try to log in and out again.
I had it before, Luke, that I muted Mattia because his keyboard was on. But it's just muting for yourself, not for the rest.
Got you. That's exactly what I've done. Oh god, Mattia, I'm so
no anarchy.
Cool. I'm gonna make sure that this is useful now. No, but
I practice computer every day. I promise.
Yeah, we all do. Still, just want to make a quick comment, as I can potentially see some issues upcoming. With it really feels like that we're working in silos. I mean, we do the whole design components, and we make them look proper, and then we do all these storybook components. But I understand that these two are not connected. So when you make a change somewhere, it doesn't sort of propagate, sort of both ways. And additionally, adding to this, as far as I understand, maybe I'm getting it wrong, GitHub is a third component, right? So if we make a change on GitHub, does it change Storybook, or we have to manually also change Storybook? Yeah, so I could see there double, triple work going on, and very difficult to keep up to date. But maybe you guys know how to organize this in a better way, or maybe I'm just getting completely wrong and it's all synchronized smoothly.
No, it's a very good question. And I think we need to figure it out, right? Like at the moment we're like part of the reason for doing the storybook work is about making it is about separating the business logic from the like visual presentation. And so like Storybook is a useful way to say like if it renders in Storybook, it must be a dumb component, a presentational component, because it doesn't have any access to anything else. And then there is a mechanism for linking Figma to Storybook. I was just reading about it today, but like hands up, I haven't worked with it before. But like going back to your other point, like this is not a third one. Like Storybook is the code, the same code that's displayed on the site. Like it's the same thing used to render Storybook and the website. So if it looks good in Storybook, it will look the same in the website.
Okay, that's already great. That's already like one of the three pillars.
Yeah,
That's
so
pretty much.
I guess the more interesting thing is like, what's the source of truth? Like, is the implementation the source of truth, or is Figma the source of truth? Because we do need to pick a single source of truth, because otherwise it gets quite problematic. Like, it says drift, and you go, oh, is it Figma? And you go, no, like, the component we have in Figma uses the wrong color purple, but we all just ignore that, and we know that the implementation in Storybook is the correct one. That's definitely a problem, and it hasn't been too much of an issue to date because we haven't had a good component system. So we've just had like random stuff in the website and Figma, and maybe those two things are in sync. And I think, yeah, it's not a problem we are currently experiencing. It would be a nice problem to have.
I think in my line of work, treating the designs as the source of truth has always caused problems. It's always because code is the site. The code is the tool, right? Like, I think trying to make the representation, the flat representation of a tool, be the source of truth for a tool is always fraught for exactly the reasons that you just mentioned. Anecdotally, like a color drifts and you're like, oh, ignore that. And then you have teams of designers who are seeing a completely different experience in Figma because they've got all of this context in their head of like, oh, so yeah, it's the source of truth except for this, except for this, except for this. So I would definitely recommend that things flow from the code out, but the design used as a tool to show what the future could be. You know, it's a way of crafting the requirements as far as I've used it in my design capacities. I'm happy to. I want to learn more about that because this is a thing that I'm struggling with in my day job as well. You're getting to the heart of my problems in my day job, Mattia, with that question.
I'm sorry to bring it up again.
No, it's great. That is a very good question to have.
Cool.
And another good startup idea, I think, if you can solve that problem.
100%.
Cool. But over to you, Luke, and your live coding. Thanks for answering this. I mean, it's good to have this in the back of our mind so that, we can also decide on where sort of information flows. But cool.
Yeah, I mean, we're absolutely, we're not at that maturity yet to have that problem, but it will become a problem. So the other thing that I wanted to flag about Storybook, and I kind of missed it in my bird's eye view of the site, but I did kind of hint to it here, is that we have multiple instances of the site up and running, right? And you can set these up locally, and you can toggle between themes locally if you're in like full dev mode. But it's not trivial. One of the nice things that's baked into Storybook is the idea of theming. So if I find the right shortcut button, I think it's this one. I need to get to canvas mode. Here we go. So I'm in Canvas, and I've gone to I've gone to this one, show add-ons, which can be done with A. Toggle on, toggle off. This is what's really nice, is we've been able to define our instances as themes. So our themes are driven as code. And so what that means is that we can preview the different styles, like just here by clicking these tabs, and it's quite easy. There isn't a huge amount of difference yet between our sites and their themes, but it's a capability that we can support. Should we start to go off in directions with different types in different type styling in certain sites, etc. But at the moment, I think this button component is the one most impacted by theming. Feel free to shout me down. Maybe the loader, because that one varies quite a bit as well. I mean, they're not that dissimilar, but you can see all of this is handled within the theme. So let's go on to the live coding exercise. So what we're going to look at, if we go back here, is document the alert component. So this is this is a component that's been added into the site, so it exists, but we don't have any documentation for it at the moment. So what we want to do is fix that problem, and also just say, like, where did alert come from? Whoa, that's weird. Like why do we not document it first? And so the answer to that question is under the hood. That brings us our theming. We use this library called Theme UI, and that comes with a bunch of component primitives. So there are some things that we actually don't even need to write the code for. Like, we just use Theme UI alert, just like this, and then we have alerts in our code. Really nice. We're not using all of these yet. This might be a fun Figma exercise, is to define the styles for each one of these. Some of these are layout only, so it's not quite 30. But yeah, that might be an interesting exercise to do. But anyway, go to the code. Show me the code. So first thing we want to do, for context, I'm inside the community platform project. Is the type size okay for everyone? Yeah.
Yes.
I can make it bigger, but I don't have to.
Good.
Cool. So we have this shortcut available to us. So it's a script. You give it the name of the component you want to document or create. Cool, and it's created that new component for us. So if we jump across to here, this is much bigger than than usual, so it looks a bit insane, but that's okay. So we're going to take a look. Every bit of documentation in Storybook is called a story. Storybook, made of stories. And there's one difference here. I'm using the default component already available in Theme UI, so I don't need. And I know that alerts work with variants, so we have success. What we're looking at is a combination of TypeScript and Storybook's own component format. Success message. Cool. So if we do npm, nope. On Storybook.
I think your variant had one C success.
It was a test and you passed. Well done. Cool. So just give it a moment to boot up. Seeing some failures. That's okay. Cool. And so now we can see that we've got this new alert component, and we have this default style. See, it takes the name from here. Just rename it. Cool. And there's one other variant for this, which is failure. Failure. I've just typed the same word twice. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Oh, I don't know if you caught sight of that, but it is live updating. If I was to type boop, boop, successful message. There you go. So it's quite fun to work with. Everyone, document components. Woo! Yeah, that's it for the demo. I'll make this into a PR, and the project will be a little bit better documented as a result. Create a new PR, docs, alert component. Yeah, you don't need to see me write git commit messages, but there'll be a PR shortly, I promise you. Any questions?
Got one. So this was super helpful for me because I've wanted to get into Storybook, but been intimidated by it. I'm wondering, anyone who's not comfortable with putting up the development environment and getting these stories, is there any way that you can get because there's so many brilliant people who are very considerate of the design and like these edge cases. Is there any way that people can contribute ideas for stories and pass them along to be documented, without having to get into making the commits?
So I am biased towards being empowered with the tools that we have available. So I would say read the documentation, have a go, and try and raise a PR. It's fun. But otherwise, I would say just raise an issue. It's an open project. If there's something you think we've missed, take some screen grabs, describe, the desired behavior against what you're actually seeing, and maybe raise the issue first, and you can see if anyone else wants to work on it, and maybe compare with them on it, or just. Yeah, sorry, I use just. I would recommend playing with the code.
Yeah. And I noticed that you put 2 different variants within one of those stories. Is that kind of how Storybook likes things to work? Is you have one component and there are multiple variants. Every state that can be in should be documented. Is that like the goal that we're trying to get?
That's a very good question, and I think something that I will update my presentation to include. Because absolutely, the goal is that every variant of a component is documented. There's no upper limit, right? It's the internet. There's no running out of memory, so just add documentation, because it's the best way to make sure that people can find it. Because otherwise, if you have a state, or if you have a visual state that can only be reached by clicking the button or something like that, or a very niche edge case, without a variant documenting it in the story, it's likely you're going to miss it.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Anything else?
When is the next meeting?
That is a good question.
Mm-hmm.
We should have answered that question before I scared everyone off with my live typing abilities.
So in general, we have this meeting before every month with the developers. Now it gets a bit more stretched with designers in here as well. And I think this is a new format we're trying out to make it a bit easier for people to participate. So I think we would potentially keep it as a monthly thing because it's sort of in our system. But also curious how this went. Maybe you guys have some feedback or specific themes you want to have us go over. Is it nice to have a demo, more presentation, more questions? So in general, I would continue the conversation as well in the Discord channel here of Community Platform. Yeah, if you have any thoughts, suggestions after this, we're just there hanging around, waiting for notifications.
Cool.
Cool. Yeah, and I think also wary of time. Maybe we'll leave it there. If there are any other questions, we would put them there. And then thank you, Luke and Frank, for the demos. I like to see live coding. It's cool.
Yeah, I like whenever you're in the command line, it starts rolling.
Cool. Yeah. Well, thanks everyone for the patience today. I appreciate it. It's good to talk out loud at people that may or may not exist. Who knows?
Discord, there are no bots. Only people.
Of course. That's what a bot would say. Okay.
Yeah, thank you. I think it's, well, as a quick feedback, I really enjoyed it, and I'm very interested to see what's going on in the community platform side. I like, yeah, but it's sometimes, yeah, it's hard to really like know what is the place to dive into that, or really like get the overview and stuff like that. So for me personally, this kind of like joining these kind of meetings as a listener even just is very interesting and useful. And I might even, at some point also every now and then have an idea or a contribution to make. So and this is much easier like this to even be on that, like updated to a point that it's, that I can even make that based on what's the current status. So yeah, thank you very much.
Before you know it, you're going to do a TypeScript course.
Exactly.
Cool. Well, I'll see you all at the next one in a month. Discord will not be so new and shiny, so maybe there'll be less mistakes. Who knows?
It was fine. And I recorded this meeting. At least I tried to. I had to like make a double setup of audio recording and separately video recording. So I hope this all worked out. I'm gonna try to share it. So yeah, let's see how that went.
Thank you.
That's cool. All right. Thanks a lot. And see you guys
Thank
later.
you guys. Bye.